back. We are almost done with the high school football season. We have gone from 24 teams to 12. It is our state championship preview edition of State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University. Alongside Bob Stambazze, Greg Rakestraw, thank you so much for joining us. And simply put, we're going to start with 6A North and work our way 6A all the way to 1A. Bob, it is always going to be with you. Let's start with Maryville at Carmel. 38-17 final score. It was 38-3 at one point in time. The outcome doesn't surprise me. I thought the game would be a little bit closer.
I did too, but then again, we said this last week, Carmel's Carmel, and the competition they play to what Maryville plays up in the region is night and day different, and Carmel really showed that.
A big part of the story is the fact that Carmel had to go with their backup quarterback in Gabe Quigley. Gabe Quigley, a guy that has now seen experience in all 3 years. He was the backup as a junior, but started in the state championship game a year ago for Carmel. He was a starter beginning of the season, got hurt. Christian Williams moved from wide receiver to quarterback midseason. He gets hurt against Homestead, and Quigley comes in and has an outstanding night.
Well, when you have a depth that they have down there, that's exceptional. But you really look at something like that, look at the coaching staff, how they prepare their kids and get them simplified and get them involved in the all facets of the game for them.
So for the fifth time in the 7 years of 6A football, Carmel is the champion of the Northern Semi-State. For the second time in 6A and third time overall, Carmel will face Center Grove in the state championship game. Center Grove goes from 4-5 and fifth place in the MIC to now playing in the state championship game as they beat Ben Davis 17-10.
I remember you clear back on our second show talking about Center Grove. Going to be a tough rebuilding situation for them because they had lost one of their running backs.
Yep.
And here they come now, getting ready at the right time, and they're playing for a state title.
They are so ridiculously young that if they win it this year, look out what happens in the next couple of years. Most of their best players are sophomores. Now, Carson Steele is a junior. Carson is back, as we have noted the last couple of weeks, in very similar stat lines in terms of about 20 carries, about 90 yards. Did not reach the end zone on Friday night. Connor Delp had both touchdowns for Center Grove. But defensively, they give up a touchdown on the first play from scrimmage. Ben Davis went onside kick on the opening play, recovered it, go for the house, touchdown. They did not reach the end zone again for the next 47 minutes and 48 seconds.
Unbelievable. And I can only imagine the noise coming from the field of play itself, the hitting that was going on.
Again, Center Grove and Carmel played in week number 3, a game that I was fortunate enough to have on the ISC Sports Network. I'll have it again coming up on Saturday as well. Center Grove began their season 0-3, lost to Carmel in week number 3. But 12 weeks later, anything can happen there. And let's go to the 5A North Semi-State. Valparaiso 10, Dwenger 7. I think those that were there felt that Valpo could have been up really by 2 or 3 scores. Dwenger had a long touchdown pass late to keep it close. Valpo won. Again, this game may not have been as close as the score indicated.
Well, it's 10-7. It's a slobber knocker. Dwenger had all those seniors. And they were really hanging their hat on those seniors to get them back to the state finals this year. But it was a tough night. Valpo really just kind of stuck their nose in there defensively and held up things against Dwenger and did not allow Lido and really Lido to get off.
Again, Dwenger is a team that from a physicality standpoint can match or overmatch virtually anybody they play. Valpo is a different beast. They're a team that, again, made the Final Four in 6A last year. And that makes for a great transition as to whom they'll be playing in the 5A state championship game because they get New Pal. And we had kind of talked that perhaps this round might be the easiest of the rounds leading up to Lucas Oil. 45-0. It was a simple blitzkrieg against Bloomington South.
And watching some of the excerpts from that game, seeing the holes, as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's just remarkable. I believe you and I both could have gotten I could have gotten through some of those holes that were opened up. And this is a special program. We talk a lot about the offense. We overlook this defense. It's second to none.
Very rarely do the two teams that you think 7, 8, 9 weeks out, hey, these are the top 2 teams. They'll play for a state championship. This is one of the cases where it was easy to see. New Pal and Valpo, top 2 teams in 5A. They'll play coming up on Friday night. More about that game in a matter of moments. So for the North, East Noble spots Hobart a 17-0 lead. then rallies at home to make their first state finals trip in 16 years. They win 29-24.
And the biggest play of the game was the final play of the game where East Noble was able to knock down a pass into the end zone to seal the deal. But what a ball game. This was my pick if I hadn't had a chance to see a game last week. This was the one I wanted to go see because it was a very physical football game and in a game that really was like a chess match. And the chess master come out ahead in this bad boy. But this was an exceptional high school football game.
There are a couple of repeat teams making the state finals that because of their pedigree, it's not a surprise, but because of what they lost a year ago, it is. This is one of them. Memorial in the South in 4A playing up a class after making the state championship game, winning it 2 years ago in 3A, runners-up last year. They graduate one of the top quarterbacks from a stat standpoint in the history of the state. And his favorite receiving target, who are both playing college football either at the FCS or at the FBS level this year. All that said, here's Memorial back in the state championship game as they beat Mount Vernon 28-3.
With another outstanding quarterback to get him there. They like to run, gun, and giggle down a football field. There's no doubt about it. They want to put the ball in the air and then set up the run, and that's exactly what they've been able to do. Once again, it's a football team. We look at the offense, but can't overlook that defense.
In Class 3A, Bishop Chatard in the north for the first time in the bracket, but similar to many years as they have been in the South. And again, we didn't think they would be challenged to get to Lucas Oil Stadium. They haven't been. 45-0. Again, a one-sided of the affair against Mishawaka Marion.
Big win over Mishawaka Marion and a team that was really, I'm not going to say satisfied to get to the semi-state, but a team that accomplished quite a bit up there in Mishawaka.
Heritage Hills is going to be their opponent again. We kind of saw this coming several weeks out. Heritage Hills, very similarly to how they beat Lawrenceburg the week before, and both those being on the road and long road trips to get there. Heritage Hills in the second half, that physicality lets them pull away from Danville. Final score on the west side of Indianapolis. Patriots win 33-17.
Listening to what you talked about Heritage Hills over the year, look at some of their stats, it looks like a team that wears people down with their depth and with their athleticism, and there's no doubt that's what happened here.
In 2A, and again, this goes into my, tip of the cap to you for getting back because I'm not sure we saw this coming. Eastbrook graduated so much from last year's team. They were the runners-up to Western Boone. They started 0-2, have not lost since. They beat Andrean, who'd beaten a couple of really good teams. To get to that point, Eastbrook wins at home 26-14.
Well, Andrean has his big back in the Walsh kid. It's really good. Eastbrook had a time with him. But you look back to those first two games, who they played, why they played them. And we talked about that the first 2 weeks about some people felt they were reloading. No, this is Jeff Adamson just retooling this group of kids. And they're right where they need to be. They have a tremendous – people will be impressed with their overall team speed. Trust me.
A rare rematch from a previous season in a state championship game. It happens occasionally, and these days with the success factor, it does not happen as often. But here you go. The first game last year on Friday is now the first game on Saturday, and much like Eastbrook, a team that hasn't lost since week number 2, Western Boone beats Triton Central 35-13. Justin Pelling, the Stars, are going back to Lucas Oil.
Yeah, and when you look at that, to me, Western Boone could put the ball in the air a little bit, right? And where Eastbrook doesn't. So I think that gives them the advantage going this. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I think this is a great matchup, be a rematch, however you want to put it. This is a great high school matchup.
In 1A, the northern team from the semi-state for the first time in a little while, considering how often they were there for so many years, is Central Catholic. We thought it was going to come from South Adams or Adams Central. Nope, it's Lafayette Central Catholic. Brian Ney taking the Knights back to Lucas Oil as they are able to beat Adams Central 24-14. LCC got out to a 24-0 lead in that game.
I talked to one of the guys that worked that game, and he said the line for LCC is nothing short of huge. And he said they totally dominated this football game on both sides of the football.
Here's the thing. They're not. Gus German is a difference maker, about 6'7" and 300 pounds. This is the first time he has played football since middle school. They were dominant and physical, but this is not as big of a line as they have had in years gone by. What they do have is a lot of very good athletes. Now, they have a significant test in front of them because Lutheran, Well, the Saints have done what they have done all year. 49-0, they beat West Washington.
Just unbelievable getting out front and finishing that game on the go. And, it's just congratulations to Lutheran on getting to the championship game where they actually should be.
Now, unfortunately, the story from Friday night for Lutheran and West Washington football, even with Lutheran making their first state championship game, is very much secondary. And so we want to take this moment to send our best wishes, thoughts and prayers heading down to the folks at West Washington High School. For those that do not know, their head coach and their athletic director, Phil Bozeman, suffered a stroke during the course of that game. Complications over the course of the weekend have left the prognosis for Coach Bozeman unfortunately grim. At the time that we are producing this week's show, the outcome or the outlook is that when he is taken off of life support systems, he is expected to peacefully pass away. To his wife and his children, one of his sons, one of his players on the football team at West Washington, we cannot imagine the grief you are going through at this time. And please, again, our best wishes to the entire Washington County community are with you at this time. On that note, we'll step aside. We're back with the previews of the 6 state championship games right after this as you're watching State Champs Indiana Extra Point presented by Lawrence Technological University.
I'm on the Blue Devil football team, and that's a great place to be because other colleges wouldn't let me be both a football player and a nursing student. And just because I'm a dog on the field doesn't mean I can't take care of people. And man, do I love people. The small class sizes at LTU give me awesome access to my nursing professors. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Welcome back. It is State Champs Indiana Extra Point. Greg Rakestraw, Bob Stambazze with you. Thanks to Chris Landis, our executive producer from State Champs Indiana, and Jake Morris of the ISC Sports Network behind the scenes, making sure our signal gets to you. Of course, this program debuts every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time on the various social media channels of State Champs Indiana. Now, let's get on to our 6 state championship games. I'm going to take them in chronological order as they happen over the course of this weekend. So with that, first out of the chute, 1A, Friday, noon. We have talked about Lutheran being the heavy favorite all year long. Lafayette Central Catholic, much like Lutheran, does play a very arduous schedule and probably is as prepped for this game as any opponent Lutheran can face. I still like the Saints. Bob, what say you?
I'm going to take LCC. Now, here's why I'm going to take them over Lutheran. Barrett, their quarterback, also an outstanding basketball player. Yep. Almost 3,000 yards on the ground, 32 touchdowns thrown to football. You look over at Lutheran, their quarterback in white, 2,300 yards thrown to football and 25 touchdowns. Then you start looking at the running. Well, it's kind of spread out at LCC. They do like control the ball on the ground a little bit more, and that's one thing I'm looking for them try to control it. But you look at McPherson for Lutheran, all he's done is rush for 2,000 yards and 41 touchdowns. I can't count that high. I think that's 240 points or something like that, or 46. I don't know. But the kid's special. So is Lutheran, but I'm picking LCC because of tradition and the experience they've got throughout the whole program.
Tradition, yes, they've got it. But in terms of playing in big playoff games, these kids from Lutheran have done that more often. And simply put, I think Marcus McFadden is one of the better players in the state. I think the physicality of Lutheran wins out in this one. Again, CC gives them a game, but I like the Saints to win in 1A. Let's now go to the 3A state championship game, Friday afternoon at 3:30. It is Chittard and Heritage Hills. For many years, this was a semi-state matchup or a regional matchup you could set your watch to. It's been a while since that has been the case. Again, much as we have talked about Lutheran being a heavy favorite throughout the entirety of the season, say the same thing about Chittard. Do the Patriots have a shot in this one?
I don't think so. I think Chittard just comes in there. I mean, Cheek, their quarterback, is throwing for over 2,200 yards, 31 touchdowns. Now, 31 touchdowns, come on. And then you look at Taylor getting 29 touchdowns and over 2,100 yards, and they got receivers all over the place, so you can't spy on one person. You got to have multiple great athletes, and I'm dead serious when I say that. But you look over at Heritage Hills, they're going to run the football. Yeah, Siegler has, 600 yards throwing, but you got Wetzel and Rogers and Sigler also running the football well. But I got to take Chittard big in this one.
Chittard, Heritage Hills is a great 3A team. Chittard's a great 4A team. Chittard's a great 5A team. Chittard will be a competitive 6A team. Chittard will win. And again, Heritage Hills has had a great season, but I've had the feeling they've been playing for second the entire time. I think Chittard wins that game. And I don't know if the 1A game will be lopsided. I kind of get the inclination the 3A game might be. In 5A, again, there are two heavyweight fights that finish both days. Yeah. Both 5A and 6A are on equal footing this year. New Pal Valpo, you start.
Well, as usual, I will start, and I'll be correct again. But you look at Valpo.
Actually, I won far more games than you did.
Did you? What'd you do last week?
Well, let's see. There were 12 games, and I won 11. And I know you picked opposite me, so you won less than 11. But continue.
What? Did you want to crown now and go to Burger King and get a Whopper? I don't care, but I'm telling you in this one, it's going to be Valparaiso really putting up a big dog fight because they throw the football, they run the football. Everybody knows New Palestine runs the football. Everybody looks, and it's Spiegel with over 3,000 yards. Yep, he's something ultra special in Indiana. But what scares me, they also throw the football. Over 1,500 yards for Roth throwing the football this year, 19 touchdowns. But I didn't really look until I know you talk about a lot, but when I looked at Spiegel scoring, 73 touches this year. That is unbelievable, the amount of touchdowns he's had. But I'm going to take, I will say this, just to be smart because I will take New Palestine in this one.
New Pal will win, but I think the story for most is this game will be competitive. Something along the lines of, say, 21-7, 28-14. I think New Pal will be the better team, but I don't think this is going to be a runaway because, again, Valpo plays largely in what is a 6A schedule. Mm-hmm. Again, Valpo beat Maryville, a 6A semi-state team, when they played during the regular season. Valpo last year was a 6A semi-state team. Yes, New Pal has beaten Center Grove. Yes, New Pal has beaten Cathedral. But, for example, that game was a Cathedral lead in the third quarter just a couple of weeks ago. So my guess is New Pal wins, but I think this might be a surprise to a lot of people, say, outside of the region. They'll win in what is a competitive game. So with that, now to 2A we go. Let's go to the rematch. Webo and Eastbrook. Is it different the second time around for Eastbrook?
Well, I think so. I really do. I think Eastbrook's got him this time. Webo comes in. They like to throw the football around. Wright's an outstanding quarterback, 1,500 yards, 22 touchdowns. You look on the other side, Eastbrook, they like to run gun. They just like to run the football and then gun over the top when they can. But Bragg, he's the guy. They run behind Stevenson. I just look for Eastbrook to come out on this one. I think this is one, maybe gets down to a field goal in this bad boy, but I take Eastbrook in this one.
The rematch to me always tends to go to the team that lost the first one, except the fact that Webo has more experienced returning pieces. I think Eastbrook is almost kind of like Center Grove, where you go, maybe we're here a year before we thought we would be. And so give me Webo. Again, I agree with you, in a close game. I think the fact that they have more back from a year ago that have been asked to perform on this stage, even though the Eastbrook kids know the drill, know how to get ready for a game at Lucas Oil, I think because they've had more kids that have gotten it done when the spotlight has been the brightest, I like the Stars in that one. Now let's go to 4A. East Noble back in the state finals for the first time in 16 years. Memorial back in the state finals for the first time in 364 days. Who you got?
East Noble. I think they're a team of destiny. I truly do. This is a basketball team, a football team that cannot be denied. I think back to last week in that big win to get to the state finals. I look at them throughout the whole season, I look at my old team, Huntington North. Mm-hmm. They struggled with Huntington North and then all of a sudden put the foot on the accelerator and where they went. So I look for East Noble really to come on in this football game. I think their physicality, for the type of football they play. Not saying Memorial doesn't. Memorial's got great athletes, but I just think the physical play of East Noble will wear them down, and that's why I'm picking the Knights.
I think this game is an absolute toss-up. I'm not sure what separates these two teams. I think they play a very even level of competition. I thought 4A all year was the most wide open group. I thought 2A was kind of that way, and go figure, we have a repeat match from last year. But 4A, it's a team that wasn't even in 4A last year against a team that has perennially been good, but either a Northwood or a Dwenger has been in their way in years gone by. So this may come down to whoever has the football last. I would probably lean towards Memorial because, again, they've got kids that have experience on that stage. But, again, we'll see how things play out. Finally, in 6A, Carmel and Center Grove, the last 2 times, well, I guess the only 2 times, they played for a football state title. The games have been absolute classics. The onside kick game in 2008, the 50-yard field goal at the Horn game in 2016. Who you got?
Well, I've been a big fan of Carmel, really, how they play the game over all these years. They just are Bulldogs. They keep after it. They keep after it. They keep after it. But I don't know. I think the Center Grove team is a team, as you said, getting a running back last week, I guess, and way they have work this season.
Right.
And I think that's why I'm going to look at Center Grove to upset Carmel in the championship game.
I'm going to lean towards Center Grove in a classic, another great game, and here's why. The Center Grove team, when they played in week number 3, are sophomores and juniors without Carson Steele. They're sophomores and juniors now, but this is their 13th, 14th football game of the season. They're not really sophomores and juniors. They might be the youngest team in the MIC. They also might be the most physically imposing team in the MIC. This will be a low-scoring game. How would you describe this game, sir?
Just a slobber knocker.
It's very fitting for the heavyweight fight that is 2 of the Titans of 6A duking it out. I thought during the regular season, having seen as many MIC games as I did, I thought that Ben Davis at their best was the best team until I saw Center Grove against Warren Central 2 weeks ago. And that was kind of a different level than I saw from anybody else in the league. In a close one, I'll take the Trojans in the 6A state championship game. So there you go. Predictions sure to go wrong coming up over the course of this weekend at Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's give you some recruiting information before we exit stage left. And for that, here's Alan True of 24/7 Sports.
This is Alan True from 24/7 Sports with this week's State Champs Recruit Report. Lawrence North senior offensive tackle Ethan Waters has picked up his 3rd offer of the process. This one comes from Butler. Waters is a 6'6", 290-pound prospect who is also an outstanding student in the classroom. He has other offers from Valparaiso and Morehead State. Sticking at Lawrence North, the player that Waters has often been blocking for is quarterback Donovan McCulley. Only a junior, but a 6'5", 192-pound prospect with great athleticism, Cully was recently offered a scholarship by Wake Forest. They now join several other schools on his list, including Indiana, Purdue, Kentucky, and more. One young prospect who's similar to McCulley to know about is Center Grove's sophomore, Taven Jackson. Jackson had an outstanding season for Center Grove and is also athletic enough to excel on the basketball court. Getting himself on the recruiting radar as a result. Recently took an unofficial visit to Indiana, and several other schools are becoming interested. He has a chance to be one of the more heavily recruited prospects in the state over the next 2 seasons. This is our final recruit report in Indiana for the season, so thanks to everybody for watching all year. Have a great holiday, and we'll catch you next season. Once again, signing off, this is Alan True.
I've always been really good at math and science, and I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So I chose Lawrence Tech's biomedical engineering program. I've pushed myself to take internships, like this one, at a hospital in an orthopedic research lab. Thanks to Lawrence Tech's unique, hands-on style of education, I'm graduating with a published research paper and a job. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Welcome back here on State Champs Indiana Extra Point. Greg Rakestraw, Bob Stambazze with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Time now for our Spotlight segment. 4 individuals that we'll highlight amongst a plethora of great performances over the course of the weekend. Talked about somewhat of the surprise that Eastbrook is now back in the 2A state championship game for the 3rd time in the last 4 years. Isaiah Dalton is a big reason why, Bob.
Yeah, he's their number 2 running back, actually, but he had a big week last week helping Eastbrook get to the championship game. So this kid just brings a load when he runs, and watch him block. Now, we talk about his running, we talk about his yardage. Watch this kid block. He's special.
Scoring runs of 69 and 34 yards. Also picked up a lateral 32 yards. It was on the turf. Took it for a score. 170 yards for the sophomore on 13 carries. Tommy Burby of Valparaiso, the junior, 227 yards of offense is all that Valpo had. Burby had 111 yards. It was a workmanlike day on 25 carries.
Yeah, the Burby and Burby law firm, his brother's a receiver on that team. This kid just explodes with the football. And when you watch him run, I saw some tape of him. Boy, does he keep his eyes above his shoulders, and that a key to be successful.
In talking with their coaching staff before Friday night's game, they said, we've been averaging about 7 yards a clip running the football this year. They acknowledge, hey, if we get 3 or 4 yards a clip, that's fine, knowing they may be playing a little offense as defense against New Pal on Friday night. Brock Combs for Evansville Memorial. This is a young man that focused on defense during the regular season. He's now playing both ways now that we've gotten to the pay window time of the season when it comes to the postseason. 23 and 19-yard carries on one drive, 59 yards on 6 carries in the first half, 11 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown as Memorial beats Mount Vernon 28-3.
Fresh. That's what you look at him now because he hadn't gone both ways. So he's fresher now, fresher legs, fresher body, big key to Memorial.
And we touched on Gabe Quigley of Carmel, the fact that he was the starting quarterback to begin the year, dealt with a turf toe injury, then they went to a sophomore, then they went to a senior wide receiver after that, and Quigley really hadn't seen the field since the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Well, Williams gets hurt against, as in Christian Williams, he was their third quarterback of the season, got hurt against Homestead. Here comes back out the senior. He goes 8 for 12 for 126 yards in Carmel's victory against Maryville on Friday night.
How special is that? Seriously, you're down for that long, and it's your mind game as much as your throwing motion. The mechanics there, but it's the mind that you got to get refreshed back on the field.
And Quigley also carried the ball 8 times for 78 yards, which the quarterback run game is something that this staff kind of incorporated because of the skill set of Christian Williams. So now you've got a quarterback running a different offense than was in place the first month of the season, and he goes for 78 yards rushing too.
That's special. I mean, you look at a kid you look at the turf toe. I mean, if you've ever had that, if you've been an athlete, you know what I'm talking about, or if you walked into your couch, you know what I'm talking about. This thing is sore and you can't walk. To overcome that, to get to the place he's at, that's pretty good.
Just some of the highlighted performances across the state of Indiana this week. Time now to put the spotlight on our television partner show. That, of course, is State Champs Indiana. And with more on that, here's Lauren Plant.
Gentlemen, happy Thanksgiving, and we appreciate all the work you've done this season. State Champs' final TV show ever airs this Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on Fox Sports Midwest. Full coverage of all the state finals. You're going to love it, and you will love State Champs moving forward. We have a brand new free app that will be available January 1st. Our social media channels will have tons of content for you to enjoy in 2020, including Greg Rakestraw and friends talking boys basketball all season long, along with highlights. That's beginning Thursday, January 9th. So subscribe, like, follow, and share State Champs Indiana. Commit to us because we are committed to Indiana high school sports.
I've always been really good at math and science, and I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So I chose Lawrence Tech's biomedical engineering program. I've pushed myself to take internships like this one at a hospital in an orthopedic research lab. Thanks to Lawrence Tech's unique hands-on style of education, I'm graduating with a published research paper and a job. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Remarkably, this is our last show before the state finals. We will have a recap edition breaking down all 6 games that will debut next Wednesday at 5 o'clock as the show does on the various social media channels of State Champs Indiana. Bob, kind of your final thoughts on this one and just the feeling going into Lucas Oil this weekend.
Well, I got to think clear back to when the season started and we started doing the show, and we talked about a lot of different teams. But the familiar names are still there, and that's what's exciting going into Lucas this Friday and Saturday. And I will say this, we haven't talked about this, but I believe we will see a record crowd at Lucas Oil Stadium for these IHSA state playoffs.
And kind of to that point, Center Grove and Carmel, because of playing each other, will pack the joint on Saturday night. Heritage Hills will bring everybody but the Hills from Southern Indiana for the 3A game. For the 5A game, nobody will be in Southern Hancock County. They will all be there for New Pal. I expect Valpo to represent out of the region. I know that all the Nobles are coming down to watch East Noble play. You are right. I think from a crowd perspective, you won't see many empty seats in the lower bowl at Lucas Oil throughout the course of the weekend.
No, don't forget Grant County, because they will follow Eastbrook as they normally do, and they'll pack the jack here. But LCC, there'll be a few there from there.
No doubt about that. All 6 games, we expect great crowds. We expect very good contests, and we'll talk about those next week. Again, for Chris and Jake behind the scenes, alongside Bob Stambazze, I'm Greg Rakestraw. Thanks for joining us for State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University.